you all can probably tell, this is my first time preaching. And like many do when they preach for the first time, I'm going to tell you a bit about my experience. When I had been told that I was going to preach today, I was both shocked and nervous, because this is a big step out of my comfort zone. But with time and prayer, I've written a sermon that I hope you all will be blessed by. Please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Lord, as I stand here today, I pray that you will use me as your mouthpiece to preach to your people. Help me deliver your word in a way that the congregation will be touched. In your name I pray, amen. Amen. Fulfillment, happiness, and spirituality. These things are all often searched for in all the wrong places. But as Christians, how and where do we search for these things? Let's look at Daniel as an example. He was taken from his home as a young boy, one of many captives, and forced to adapt to foreign practices and ways of life. He and his friends lived in a place where God was not accepted or worshipped. And instead of them being able to worship their God, they were forced to worship King Nebuchadnezzar. Turn to your Bibles to Daniel 1, verse 3. This starts off by saying, Then the king instructed Aspenaz, the master of the eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, and some of the king's descendants, and some of the nobles, young men whom there were no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature to the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies, and the wine of which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Now among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. He gave Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, Hananiah, Shadrach, Mishael, Meshach, and Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine of which he drank. Therefore he requested that the chief of the eunuchs, that he might not defile himself. It's safe to say that Daniel had the opportunity to sin against God, but instead he remained faithful. They grew up in homes where the fear of God was instilled in them. Their parents made sure that these boys, soon to be men, were prepared to face the temptations of sin they were growing up around. Due to this, they had a firm foundation and stayed solid in their faith. Despite the fact that they were in a foreign land, they had new names and a new identity. Their identity in Christ was unshaken. Unlike many of us today, including myself, when Daniel and his friends were faced with the choice to conform and give in to the pressure around them, they decided that they were going to stay faithful and true to themselves and true to their God. They decided that the ways of King Nebuchadnezzar would not become their ways. They decided to obey God and only God. Even in this little act of obedience, we are able to witness the level of spirituality Daniel and his friends had. They were practicing their spirituality in a secular world. After refraining themselves from indulging in the king's choice of food, they were able to experience the empowerment of the Holy Spirit. Jumping to verse 12 to 20, it reads, Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance to what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And so they entered the king's service. You see, when we choose to obey and follow God, He in return blesses us.
Amen.
God has so much in store for us. Jeremiah 29, verse 11 says, For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. A plan of good and not evil. A plan to give you a future and a hope. Everything we seek, whether it's happiness, good health, or our spirituality, it is found in Christ. Daniel and his friends didn't follow the crowd like many of us would have today, and in return, they were blessed. Not only did they end up being healthier than all the other young men, they were given knowledge to interpret dreams and visions and understand all types of literature. Now, this was not just because they didn't drink or eat the food of Nebuchadnezzar. This was God working through them to display his works to others. May I remind you that Daniel and his friends were still in their youth when this took place? This just goes to show you that God works through both the young and through the old. Due to their choice to nourish themselves with food that God approved of, the food that they were raised to eat, they were blessed and full. Many sources agree that since the beginning of time, food has nourished us multidimensionally. It feeds not only the body, but the mind, the soul, and our social well-being. They are secrets because this understanding has been a part of humankind's relationship to food for thousands of years, but in the last century, most of us have lost and forgotten about them. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16 says, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst?" Every aspect of our lives is connected through God. Our body, mind, soul, and our spirit. And because of this, we must take care of these things like Daniel did, no matter what temptations come our way. Fast forwarding to Daniel chapter 3, it reads, "King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and set it in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, administrators, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, 'Nations and people of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace.'" Do you notice the similarity between Daniel's time and ours? Just like then, people today are being persecuted for simply believing in God. Can you imagine the amount of fear many Christians face both then and now? But church, may I remind you that we serve an almighty God, and he doesn't let any of his children suffer in vain. Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." God blesses those who are not just persecuted for him, but who are ridiculed for him, because he himself had experienced this in his lifetime, and he understands what it's like. Going to verse 15 of Daniel chapter 3, it reads, "Now when you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." This made the king very upset. He then commanded the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He had his strongest soldiers tie them up and put them into the furnace. However, we all know this is not how the story ends. Verse 24 of Daniel chapter 3 reads, "Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, 'Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?' They replied, 'Certainly, your majesty.' He said, 'Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound, unharmed, and the 4th looks like the Son of God.' Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies nor a hair on their heads, and their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angels and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's commands, and were willing to give up their lives than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, and their houses be turned into piles of rubble. For there is no other God that can save in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. When we stand for God and are strong in our faith, other people notice it in us. We stand out from the crowd. And we ourselves are not the only one benefiting from this, but the people around us. Because just like in the story of Daniel, when we decide to be different, we encourage others to do the same.
Amen.
And just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were able to spread God's love throughout Babylon, we can do the same and spread God's word to others. Our God created us, and he knows each and every single one of us. He knows our strengths, and he knows our weaknesses. And he doesn't give us anything we can't handle. So when he gives us trials and tests, he gives us what we can manage. He knew Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were taught to fear God. So when faced with trials and temptations, they would not lean on their own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge him. Choosing God and the possibility of death, or bowing down to a heathen king and saving their lives, the Hebrew boys chose to put their lives in God's hands. The question is, will you? How many of us here today would have done what they did if put in such a predicament, knowing that death is a possibility? This is the problem. We all want something from God, but when it comes to us giving him something or sacrificing something of ours, it's another story. We tend to make excuses when we really should be asking him what he wants us to do and how he wants us to serve. So where am I going with all of this? I spoke about health, happiness, and spirituality through God using the life of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. My message is simple. 1, when we push our pride aside and humble ourselves, we're left with satisfaction and true happiness and fulfillment. We have to be willing to sacrifice everything, our entire being, just as God sacrificed for us. 2, we all seek good health, spiritual strength, and happiness. And through Christ is the only way we can obtain that. So church, I hope that as you go out today, you will find happiness, holiness, and healthiness through Christ. I hope that those of you with kids will raise your kids to be God-fearing men and women, and us as children and youth will train ourselves to be solid in our faith just as Daniel was in his.
Amen.
And remember, how we start, how we're trained, and what we consume all have an impact on who we become.
Amen.